February 28, 2013 meeting of Executive Finance come to order. Pastor Hurst, should you give the blessing?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We ask your guidance and your wisdom in this meeting as we take care of the Cherokee people's business. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Roll call.
Jody Fishing-Hunt. Chuck Huston Jr.
Here.
Bill England.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Joe Bird.
Howdy.
Julia Coates. Here. Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin.
Howdy.
Frankie Hargis.
Present.
Tyler Corey Jordan.
Present.
Lee Keener. Dick Lay. Curtis Snell. David Thornton. David Washington. Kara Callahan. We do have a quorum.
Okay. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes, January 29th, regular session meeting.
Make a motion to be approved.
Councilor Baker, second by Councilor Garvin. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Madam Speaker, do you have a motion?
Yes, if we could, I would like to move items 1 through 3 of old business and 1 through 3 of new business up to the front prior to report.
So we have that motion on the floor. You have a second. Second by Councilor Washington. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, so we'll proceed with old business through new business, then we'll move back to reports and consent items. So item number 1 in old business. Councilor Lay, did you take that,
I
sir?
think we'd like to table that.
Table that for a month. Motion to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I think Councilor Walking-Stick seconded that motion. Item number 2, discussion of possible action, carryover funds. Then Councilor Lay?
Could I ask one question of Ms. Oren, please, first?
Certainly.
What does carryover stand for? Has it happened already?
No. The audit will be finalized at the end of next month, March 31st. We're pretty good on schedule there. And there will be a couple of programs that are in immediate need that will be brought forward in next month's budget mod, and the rest will be in the following AP mod.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we'll use whatever they send the book.
I'm sorry, Councilor Lay, did you have anything further?
Need a comment, Mr. Chairman?
What's that? Oh, we're, okay.
We'll table.
Okay, we got a motion to table. We have a second by Councilor Fitching-Hawk. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. Next item, discussion possible action concerning healthcare master plan expansion. Councilor Fitching-Hawk.
Yes, I want to know where we stand on this, what we're going to do, who's going to build.
All right. We have a number of people here, I think, that can speak to that. And if you don't have a preference, I see Ms. Davis is beating everyone else up to the podium. Let her go first.
The sacrificial lamb. No, I think this is something that everyone in this room that represents the counties, and I know me personally and the team that we've been working with should be very proud of. I know we don't always agree on everything, but the one thing we have all agreed on is the need to expand the clinic space and improve access to our clinics for our patients. We've been meeting since the resolution was approved unanimously in this council back in October on a weekly, sometimes even a bi-weekly basis, trying to figure out what we need, how to do it, and how we can afford it, frankly. Because we're looking at, financing options and how can we do this on our own. And, we have clinics where providers are actually working out of one office. So obviously, if you see a patient, you need to move on. You have to leave that room, give them time to change clothes. We don't have place to add specialty services, and just this week, I was notified we have 3 pediatricians wanting to start to work for us. Well, we don't have a place to put them, but we definitely have a need for pediatric services. So, saying all of that, we know we need space, and what we want to do is get that space. So, the other thing I want to add is the rumors of this expansion have really increased the interest in providers wanting to come work for us. They see what we've done in Muskogee, they see what we've done in Veneta. Those clinics are very appealing. And I think it's going to help us recruit a whole different level of providers. We took a look at our at the 15-year plan that I think we dispersed that to you guys back in the summer. They had done a strategic plan back in 2000. And based on their predictions at that time, they anticipated a growth in patients in Tahlequah to be about just over 25%, in Salisal 14%, and I can share this by email if you guys want to have a copy of it. Jay, 22%, Nowata, 28%, and at that time, they just said there's a need for a clinic in Bartlesville. The data that we have from 2011 shows that we actually had a growth in patient population of 48% in Tahlequah, of 5.4% in Salisal, 12% in Jay, and 67% in Nowata, which really exceeded that. So the preliminary plans was to just get us some clinics and get us some space, and that's why we went with like this 28,000 square foot plan, just to get the space and see what we can afford. So that's what we've been running numbers on. CNB heard about this, of course, and they've offered their help. And so with that, I'm going to ask Doug to tell us what they're going to do to help us out. And Sean's here to help us out.
Mr. Chairman, before she exits stage, can I ask a couple of questions?
You know what, could you hold your questions, because I think
Okay.
we're going to get a good presentation here, and we want it to be, we want some continuity to it. So, Mr. Evans?
I can't email the 15-year plan, but I thought I had dispersed it. It's going to be hard copy. I don't have it by email.
I'm sorry, I may not have been clear.
I'm so
Mr.
sorry.
That's okay, and it's not your fault, Tony. Mr. Evans, are you ready for Mr. Evans to continue the presentation? Very good, Mr. Evans.
Cherokee Nation Business Board of Directors have understood the need from the onset when the resolution was passed by this body. They contemplated a participation. Something like this, we understand that the businesses is very difficult for the government to enter into financing arrangements in a credit facility that would accommodate such a large investment. However, this is well within the means of the businesses. Businesses have a capital structure and a revenue stream that this government doesn't have the luxury of experiencing, nor does it have the ability to repay. So with that, the board has, the Cherokee Nation Businesses Board has endorsed a participation and a willingness to participate in the form of a capital financing. And that was laid into our 5-year cash flow forecast and capital plan. After I went up there, asked to be put together, we have a revolving line of credit that's going to be terming out June 30th, I believe, of this year. It was a syndicated facility. We have gone back out to renew that facility. Obviously that end product will come before this body for endorsement again, and the necessary approvals and waivers that's typically attached to it. We would be utilizing that line of credit regardless whether we're participating in these healthcare clinics or not. But it was important to make sure the consideration of these clinics was laid in the plan. So with that, the board and CMB are very pleased that they could step up and consider that and be able to serve as a financier for such a large project that's going to enhance the delivery of the healthcare system. So with that, Sean, do you have anything?
I bet I can think of some things on that. We're excited. Our people get up and go to work every day for the nation, and this is a way that we can really utilize their efforts and the results of what they've done over the past few years to allow us to participate in providing facilities to care for the people. And it's their people too. It's their moms, their dads, their grandpas, their aunts, their uncles, grandmas, kids. And I know that once once we roll out the information to them, they're going to be thrilled to death to be able to help make this happen for the nation. The second thing that's going to be good for us is in terms of building capacity within our business group to be able to go out into the government contracting business now with past prior experience, and especially with past experience in healthcare. You know, we've done a lot of construction over the past few years at C&B, and we've learned a lot, and I think for the most part it's gone well, and we've got really nice facilities and helped a lot of Terrell people along the way too, and that's our intent here. Cheryl's group with CCRC and her companies have really taken off in the last couple of years in small construction projects with the federal government. We've done a lot of work, or she's done a lot of work, up at Dover Air Force Base, and that's now parlaying into some contracts at Riverside. But the piece that they can't get into right now is the work for the federal government in their healthcare facilities, because they don't have any past experience in that. This is a great way to do that, and the way that we're going to do that is her company is going to act as the construction manager for these projects. Our construction management group is going to, that we've used in the past to oversee projects, is going to oversee them, and then we're going to team them with a company that's got a lot of healthcare experience and in the construction end of it. And I think those three things together, our experience in terms of building big projects, we're going to act, Kevin Ogle's group, the construction group that's always been in place overlooking Flintco and the other construction managers, is going to act in the same capacity for us to look over Cheryl and HWH. And then on the actual construction side, hammering the nails and with the hammers, HWH is a very large construction company, and they have partnered with other tribes in the past to help them get into the government contracting business, and they've offered to do the same for us, and we're going to take them up on that offer and go from there. In terms of how the projects will work, they'll work just like we've always done. Every Terrell vendor that's out there will be given the opportunity to bid, and you know, on the ones that are built with tribal monies, we have a little more leeway on how we do that. And I guess on the ones that have some federal funds attached to them, we'll follow the federal process and guidelines for that. So there's going to be a lot of work for everybody. They'll get a chance to get in there and see if they can get some of that fair and square. And you know, that's as the CEO of C&B, that's my objective on the construction side, is everybody gets a fair shake, and we come out of this with capacity internally to go build things for the government and the 8A work, and then our people win because they feel like they've got a stake in this. They've helped build these clinics for their families in the future, and I think when we roll this out to them and put it to them like Chief put it to us, I think you're going to hear some really good feedback from our employees. That's my speech. I'll answer questions.
All right. Well, we had, is there any more part of this presentation? Because I want to definitely have time for questions, but I want us to hear the whole presentation first, is my preference.
I'm Cheryl Cohenauer. I run the environmental and construction portfolio of the Cherokee Nation businesses. We're very excited about this opportunity. This is going to give us some past performance that that we've not had before in the healthcare field. But not only that, we do mostly work with the federal government. And one of the first questions that the government usually asks us when we go in and sit down and talk about something we're trying to get, that they're getting ready to build, is, what do you do for your own tribe? And in the past, that's been zero. So this helps us on so many levels. Plus, we do a lot of construction right now for the federal government, and we have developed some great past performance. This is just going to allow us to enter into a whole new level and gain some past performance that we hadn't had before in the healthcare. Federal government does a lot with healthcare clinics and a lot with hospitals, and this is an opportunity for us that we really look forward to seeing through to the end. It's a great source of pride for us to be able to do this work for the nation. Excuse me, we've set up a whole separate company, which is 100% tribal, or it's a tribal LLC, 100% owned by Cherokee Nation businesses. It's Cherokee Nation Construction Resources. Ryan Holderby is the operating general manager. Ryan has good construction experience. He's also, Cherokee, and everyone that we've hired into this company is Cherokee. And I think it's going to be we're Taro certified. We've looked at opportunities that we can work with both Taro on through the procurement process, as well as we've been working with Diane Kelly and Career Services to try to find a way that we can provide apprenticeships for previously trained Cherokees in the construction arts and allow them to go and sit for their actual licensing in trades. So we think we've tried to kind of incorporate as many groups within the nation and CNB as we can, so that this is an opportunity to keep this money internally and provide positive impact for both the nation and for the business unit. And I think you'll be real proud of this. Are there any questions?
We've got lots of questions, I would imagine, and I appreciate that. Ms. Davis, you started us off. Is there anyone else we need to be included in the presentation before we go into questions? Anyone else who wants to present? The Attorney General.
I just want to make a brief statement, is that when I've been involved with the Cherokee Nation for over 13 years, and I remember when gaming started, and one of the aspects that we had, that the Cherokee Nation have always talked about, is getting to a point where the businesses truly can make a visual commitment to the people. We've always built casinos to make money, to build bigger and brighter casinos, to make money to build bigger and brighter casinos, to make money to make even bigger and brighter casinos. Well, this is the opportunity. The day has now come to where we can make an investment, not just in bigger and brighter casinos, but in brick and mortar, into health clinics, hospitals, things that make a direct impact to the Cherokee people in probably our biggest and greatest need. This is the day is now. And so I'm proud to see that moment, that through the guidance of the council, we started this initiative, that we're getting behind this and be able to come to bring this to fruition. And plus, gaming compact negotiations are going to start near. What better way to come to the table with clean hands, with this is what we're doing with our money. Not only is it just dividends, but they're investing in the building of these clinics that not only benefit the Cherokee Nation, but benefit the state of Oklahoma and the whole region as a whole. That's going to be very powerful for me in beginning these negotiations, and not just in gaming, but on everything, because it shows what a good partner the Cherokee Nation is to our brothers and sisters in the state. Happy to be a part of it, and would help with any questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Several councilors indicate they wanted to ask questions. Let's start with Councilor Cowan Watt. She was first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Connie, I guess I'll start with you. So I will have to go and dig in my folders to refresh my memory. I don't necessarily need to kill another new tree, but one thing that might be helpful is just some kind of graphs that summarize projected growth and need for services and some summary of that 12-year plan. But what I heard you say earlier was that there's been a significant growth in population that would change those projections. And I'm sure medicine's changed since 2000. So, and I know patient care has changed and those kind of things. So one of the things I was asking for in an earlier meeting, not today, but last month, I think, was what is that? Are we gonna meet those needs? So that's what I'm looking for from the healthcare side, is that analysis, the patient load, the patient needs in terms of services, and also how that equates to staffing needs. And then, you know, are we gonna be able to do that? Those kind of things. And then on the business side, I guess, I don't know if I had a question so much as, you're nodding your head so you can provide that to us, is that right?
Yes, it's just, the 15-year strategic plan, as I was texting my staff, is an 80-page document. So I thought I had distributed it earlier in the summer, and I may have not. But we can send that, but we don't have it electronically, we just have hard copies. And we'd be glad to share that. It talked about the clinic in Muskogee, the Jack Brown Center, which we're breaking ground on.
Mr. Chairman, may I address the speaker for a moment? I'm sure is that something we can PDF here if they brought one hard copy over?
Please
Scan it.
Okay.
So
We'll do
that'll
that.
solve that, but I still heard a need, not only summarize that, but then change those projections based on what I heard is an increase in patient load and a number of other things. I'm assuming we probably have better data now that once we took over the IHS facility at Hastings, and we own that process of gathering data, that we will have more accurate information than we did in 2012.
We think so.
Okay.
We believe so.
Thank you, Connie.
You bet.
Doug is still here. So in terms of the agreement for any financing, that would require to come back to the council for approval for any waiver of sovereign immunity, is that correct?
Well, that's a legal question.
That any financing agreement or such would require a waiver of sovereign immunity, is that correct, from the tribal council?
If you're talking about the financing for his role, the revolving credit line he was talking about, if there's a waiver, yes, it would. Well, for CMD,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Um,
Our revolver
It will-
will come back before this body.
Right.
What
Yeah.
each project within the capital expenditure list won't come back to the body for approval. Strategic acquisitions, strategic expansions on gaming, other investments throughout CMB, healthcare facility, those things are just uses of that line of credit. But that line of credit, of course, the waiver and the pledge of credit both come back here.
Sorry. So what I'm hearing is on terms of financing for the healthcare facilities, if there's a waiver of sovereign immunity, it will not come back to.
There's no waiver of sovereign immunity. At this time, they're not directly loaning any money to us. They're building them and leasing them to us. at present
Who is
time.
they? Okay, but how is CMB getting the money? Are they using part of the dividend then, or the 70% or 65% that they retain for job growth? Is that what?
Yes.
I just want to make sure my
It-
mind's
yes.
clear. I'm sure that all these folks that get in on these inside meetings have this clear already.
The 60, no, it's a very good question, Counselor, it is. The 65% is an annual retention of net income each year, and it builds cash balances year after year after year. Cash balances go up, they come down. Sometimes, as in the past, and we've experienced this several times, it goes below the water surface level. So we go out on our line of credit. It's happened several times. That's why we had a $200 million line of credit 5 years ago. CMB during that time went out on the line, they came back off of it, they go back on. The use of the capital, of the cash for these capital expenditures is simply just that, it's a use. The line of credit is a facility that allows the cash balance to fluctuate and to continue to invest and reinvest to earn more of the net income, that 65% we retain. We use that 65 to pay the line
So
off
the answer is yes,
or to build
it's part of
cash.
the 65% retained for job growth at CMB. It's a business decision of
Yes.
creating business.
And I think, I apologize. Maybe this would be a better way to directly answer your question. the 35% dividend that the nation receives would not be taxed with paying that line of credit back off, nor would it be taxed with the burden of paying off the line of credit, which may or may not be used to build these health clinics. So there won't necessarily be a burden on your dividend for this.
What will the contract look like between us and ourselves?
We will have an MOU in place. That's created that.
So what happens if we as a government default on ourselves to our business? What's the payback period?
At this point, they're building another
The lease amount
Okay, so what's
is to
the
be
payback?
determined. The lease amount is to be determined as far as a rent, if
So you're
if
gonna
that's what
provide
you're
us
asking.
that payback period that we pay ourselves back on this facility to CMB? What's the return on investment?
Can I take a shot at this too? One of the pieces of the Job Growth Act is for us to reinvest and create jobs. And, you know, we've done that to some extent in the 14 counties. But we've reached outside of the 14 counties and made some investments in technology, portfolio, and, you know, some other companies that we bought. And so each year in our capital plan, there's 30% that's allocated for reinvestment into other businesses to try to create jobs. And so we have decided that one of the industries that we've always wanted to be in, there were 4 or 5, technology and some of the others, one of the ones that we could really make an impact in the 14 counties and provide jobs was through healthcare. But we really didn't know how to do that because we don't know how to run healthcare facilities, but we do know how to build things. So the 30% that Doug is talking about here in terms of reinvestment is we're going to diversify into healthcare in the 14 counties and help create jobs for the people within the 14 counties. So the funds that you might have seen going to Colorado to buy a company or Arizona to buy a company or this, that, and the other, we're not going to do that. We're going to take that money, we're going to spend it in the 14 counties and create a healthcare industry, help create a healthcare industry that will spawn other things other than clinics. If we get these scattered around the 14 counties, we can take a look at, you know, doing other little things that may attach to that are related to healthcare that have jobs. And so that's kind of the idea from it. We're not gonna spend any more money than we would have. We're just gonna spend it in the 14 counties. And we're gonna spend it in healthcare.
So you have a business case then if you put up that will show the return on investment and the payback
Right.
period and all that?
Well, this is just like some of the other things, like the nurse, the laundry at J. There's not a lot of return to us. There's a tremendous return to the nation in terms of keeping their people healthy, adding jobs, you know, that will be added through the clinics, through the expansion of those as services grow. So if you're asking us, are we going to make 20%? No, we're going to build this as cost effective as we can for the nation.
So how long will it take to pay back?
Well, I'm not sure what your question is. Pay CMB back? Well, we can set the lease rate, pay back in whatever time period everybody agrees it needs to be paid back. If it's 20 years, it's 20 years. If it's 5 years, it's 5. As long as the cash flow from the nation can support that. I think our deal is we're looking at this just like, you know, the discussions that we had, you know, 3 and 4 and 5 years ago, that there are some businesses out there that we should look to invest in that's not going to return what a casino returns. It may return 3%. If it returns 3% and there is a big gain in jobs and help for the people, then
So how was it
returns.
decided that CRC, it was just a sole source opportunity to CRC? Is that correct?
Well, CRC is us.
I
And
understand.
I looked at it and I said, okay, our construction
But we
companies.
haven't done too well in policing ourselves on construction in the past. I guess that's why I'm asking. Not, CRC has not been part of that to my knowledge. I don't mean to, sorry Cheryl, but
You mean on other projects?
Yes.
Okay.
and
Well,
so
I
how are
can,
we gonna hold ourselves accountable?
well, that's what I was talking about earlier. Casinos that we have been in the construction we've been involved in, we've done two things. We've got an experienced construction manager, which is Flint Cup, and we had our internal staff that watches out over Flint Cup. All right, and so that's exactly what we're doing with Cheryl and her companies. We're treating them just like they were Flint Cup. Our internal staff, Kevin Oakland and his group, is going to police, if that's the word you want to use, what they do, how the bids are put together, bid packages are put together, so it doesn't eliminate.
Yeah, I'm assuming, because you have lots of policies in place, this is when it goes wrong, if it goes wrong. How do we hold ourselves accountable? Because before we would go into court, or we go into mitigation, or we would go against our bond or insurance. I mean, it's happened, mistakes are made, there's humans involved.
Sure.
So how are we holding ourselves accountable? I mean, we're gonna have to, if it came to litigation, we would be suing ourselves. That's where I'm in a quandary to understand how this would be implemented.
We would have to work through that. I don't know that we anticipate suing ourselves.
I don't
but-
anticipate, but that's why there's lots of lawyers, right?
But
The way we've
that
got it
committee,
set- the way we've got it set up right now, they will be the construction manager, they will oversee all the subcontractors, what we call the subcontractors. The subcontractors have direct contract with the Cherokee Nation.
Okay, and that brings up a good point, because I heard, what's this company, HWH. So how did we get to HWH? Because I understand they're not Taro, I can answer that.
Let me go back real quick to the previous question and let you know that any subcontractor with over $100,000 will be bonding back to us. So if any subcontractor starts to go south, we have that bond we can go back against, like normal construction business. Now, how we got to HWH, excuse me, is that we were introduced to them about 8 months ago. And we started forming a relationship with them to do government work. We found they came in, sit down with us and talk to us, and this is kind of how we work in the environmental and construction portfolio. If we do a large government project, we usually team ourselves with a larger company, so we have reach-back capability. So if they have something that we don't, we're able to kind of rely on one of our partners. And we had started working with HWH on a couple of contracts with the Fort Worth Corps of Engineers and the Little Rock Corps of Engineers. So we had kind of a working knowledge of them. They have a tremendous amount of healthcare experience. They've done hospitals and clinics, and they are like a 100-year-old construction company out of Texas. So they have a lot of resources that we can reach back and pull forward. They would be a consultant to us, like we normally do, like at Dover with CH2M Hill. And that just makes us more successful and have the ability to look bigger than what we are, that they kind of mentor us, and we're kind of their protege. We learn along the way, and we develop that past performance capability that gives us more.
And you said introduced, who introduced you?
Mike Bailey introduced HWH to us.
Do you know if any first-degree relatives of elected officials in the Cherokee Nation work for HWH?
I don't. I know HWH and just the people that we've dealt with, but I don't know I think their headquarters are in Paris, and I've not been to Paris, Texas, so I do not.
Okay, what about, I heard earlier about compliance or non-compliance with federal regs around hospitals. Before in earlier meetings, I'd understood that we would pursue federal dollars for reimbursement on capital costs for operations. But then I heard today, we would not necessarily build the federal compliance, because I thought with IHS, you had to work with them on facilities to be compliant with their facilities. So help me understand, I don't know if you need to answer that, but.
The very clear thing that's on the back of our minds when we go home and see the news is sequestration. And so in our visits with IHS, we know that they're not offering any babies this year or next year. So we're going to be, hamstrung, counting on them to fund anything right now. we've also identified in a previous meeting with Dr. Ribadu, a flaw in their formula that calculates the need for hospitals specifically. Dr. Grimm and I are going to Washington next week and have a plan to meet and address that and take the evidence of that as well. We're going to ask that if we break ground, that does not take us out of the eligibility requirements to become considered for a JV to help assist us with the staffing. So,
Will you update us in writing on that?
after the meeting,
Well, yeah, after your meeting next
Yes.
week. And I assume the whole council would be interested in that. One last question. So back to what a plan is, so there's definitely the healthcare analysis, that's part of the plan, justify the need, then it has to be translated into facilities, and I don't know if this, I guess, would be what Cheryl provides, is do we then have timeframes, size of facilities, those kind of things, cost, or what we
the
have.
size was part of the resolution based on the resolution passed, and that's what we have based our planning on, is there was a preliminary square footage passed in the resolution, I believe, of 28,000 square feet. And that's kind of where we're playing with.
I guess I'm just concerned that we're not building big enough facilities or
I can
adequate.
assure you we're not, but I can also assure you we can't possibly afford to do the kind of expansion that we'd really like to do. And that's why the relationship with the CMB side will be helpful, because we can start that, and as we build, we'll improve our third-party collections and recruit more providers, and we want to build these facilities so that we can add on. And it's not so cookie cutter that it limits us in expansion. We want these facilities to be built so that if we can add another section to add another group of providers, that they can be built to do that.
So to follow up on my last question is, when will we have schedules and costs and those,
Well, it's just like planning a casino or whatever. So you build a casino, that's the first thing you do. The second thing you do is you sit down and scratch your head and figure out how big you want to build it, what it wants to look like. And that may take a month or 3 months or 5 months till you get the right thing, and then you get the plans drawn up and ready to go. I think just based on what I know of this deal is we're somewhere in the start of that second phase is, really what does the healthcare.
well, I'm excited about it. That's why I keep asking about the plan. I got a tag for it last month. So I'm kind of interested when the plan might be available.
We have already started putting together, based on some rough numbers of what health has given us, what our needs are in terms of square footage, put together some generalized budgets. We made a lot of assumptions. We put together our budgets based on a cost of square foot of about $225 a square foot. We think we can actually, when we go out for RFP, get it built for $200 a square foot. We put in some estimated cost of about 25% on equipment, and that could be kind of high. We don't know yet. We're conservative. We put in a contingency of like 15%. That could be high. We've got some budgets already created for each one of the facilities. So we have some of that we can share, and we have some time frames that we can share.
Well,
I would really
go.
appreciate that.
I wouldn't go quite that far in terms of budgets. I'd say they're like this when you're first starting.
That's
but-
still better than what we've got
But they're
now.
ballparks, and so,
It'll
we'll
change a
work,
lot.
we'll
Understood.
work with everybody to get those out when everybody feels comfortable that, we're putting out something that's got some teeth behind it, and not just a good guess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. All right. Bear with me for a second. I know we've got a list of other counselors with questions, which I have misplaced and now I have found. Counselor Burke.
I forgot what my question was. I think Kara asked all the questions, didn't she? What's the charge of HWH back? What percentage would you charge to do this service?
Right now, we've negotiated them down to 3.5%, and that would be construction cost, not overall cost.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Walking still?
Is there going to be any third-party investors involved with this?
Is there what?
Third-party investors, you mean? The only third-party investors that will be involved in this would be those that were investing pursuant to the new market tax credits where we could have participation that could save us up to 20% of the capital outlay. Those would be home runs, quite frankly, if we can do that. You take 20% of this total outlay and have some other person pony that money up so they get a benefit of tax credits going forward for a 7-year period, that's a win for the Cherokee Nation. Those clinics that are in qualifying census tracts, which I believe 3 out of 4 are, that's been pursued, at least on the onset, to determine, is this a possibility? If it is, let's go after it.
If it's a $10 million building, we're gonna pay 8, and they're gonna pay $2 million.
Essentially rough numbers, and without getting into the complexities of a tax credit financing formula. Yeah, you're close.
And also, I had Redstone come in my office today, visit with me briefly, and talk about they had interest in doing what HWH was doing, I guess being the mentor. And I understand that the resume capacity of both, I know Redstone, their resume isn't that qualified, I guess, and HWH is. But Redstone was talking about a partnership with Manhattan, which does have a resume. You know, I was listening to their concerns. Some of the concerns was the money going into the economy. You know, you got the money going into the Texas economy, then you got the money going into the Oklahoma economy. And then you get about the tribal aspect of things. Redstone, they're Native American, I mean, I think they're 60 or 80% Native American base with their employees. And HWH is non-Taro. So there's a lot of pros and cons there with going in. And I trust you guys. I've visited with Sean and Doug and others, and I do trust the judgment of the resume. And we do want a quality facility.
Well, I think maybe they answered your question for you there, David, when they said that they can partner up with Manhattan. What we're trying to do is build the internal capacity and capabilities of the Cherokee Nation, and that's Cheryl's group. And so we couldn't partner up with Redstone. They haven't done this before. They don't know it. We had to partner with somebody that's got experience, that's big enough to do it. And so that's why HWH was chosen. So I think we're trying to keep our eye on the ball. Cheryl's growing her companies over there. When she grows her company, she adds Cherokees. And we're trying to develop an expertise in government work that if Redstone built the facilities or another group built the facilities, we wouldn't get. So the next time there's an opportunity out in the government 8A contracting arena that comes up, we still couldn't tap that.
Well, they're not interested in the contracting. They're interested in the mentorship.
They just said they couldn't do it. They're going to have to partner with Manhattan to do it. So.
Well, that's just what they, and I understand because we are on board. We are going to be doing contracting.
Now they'll be able to contract with them to perform anything out there they want to do. If they want to do the concrete, if they want to do the steel, they'll be able to bid and do all that work.
Well, that's I understand, like, we're going to be doing the contracting. But I'm saying they're wanting to do what HWH is going to do. That's what they're
do that.
Okay.
I don't think they have the experience to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, they're saying if they partner with Manhattan, they will be able to.
That would be another layer of cost that frankly we don't need.
Sure. I'm just saying. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fishing Hawk.
Okay. What concerns me the most is you said, this is addressed to Cheryl, since you started this, that you have been looking at hiring Cherokees and apprenticeship programs. Cheryl, to be honest, you should have been looking at that before.
Oh, well, we have several businesses in our organization that are Cherokees. And every time we have an opening, we try to fill that position with Cherokees. What I was trying to tell you is that we set up a specific company to do just the nation's work. And the reason we did that was because when we do federal government work and we're in the 8A program, we have to keep a commercial mix of government and commercial type work. And you're only allowed to exceed your primary NAICS code like 3 times an average over a 3-year period. So if we were to put all of this work from the nation into one of those 8A companies, we would immediately graduate and lose all of the current opportunities that we have and we've been marketing for years. So we didn't want to graduate one of our 8A companies. We went over here and set up a separate company to do nothing but this work for the nation. And we're doing all of that and working with Diane and mentoring. I know you wanted to mention the mentoring issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. One of the things that I was asked to do was to talk about the mentor protege. I'm gonna look right at Councilman Byrd, because we did this during your administration. And one of the things that you do is when you're trying to look at building something, you go out there and you get the best that's out there. And we did this with Job Corps during your administration. We were told by the Department of Labor, in order for you to keep that Job Corps center point, you're gonna have to go out there and look at what's out there. And I don't care if they're Indian, Hispanic, Oriental, whatever, but you're gonna have to look at the best that's out there to come in and mentor your staff in order to get that center moving. And that's what we did, is we went out and we contracted with a firm that had like 23 Job Corps centers. And when you looked at their performance ratings were way up here at the top. That's what engaged us to go seek them out and ask them to come and work with us for about 2.5 to 3 years to mentor our staff and allow our staff to go into their training. But their staff came down and worked with our staff, gave us guidance, direction on how to make that center work, because it wasn't a grant, it was a contract. And mentor proteges are out there, and companies like HWH, if you go and you do your due diligence, you do your research on them, they do have a quality track record in building hospitals, in building clinics. And what you all just went through this last year with Three Rivers and with Redbird is an example of why you need to go out and get her and her construction company up to speed on how to build health facilities, because they're a little bit different in building a casino. We could go out here and build casinos for any other tribe around here. The Zunies were here about a month ago. They met with Sean and his staff on the casino operations. They're interested in knowing how we're going to take the construction and build these health facilities. That's what tribes should be doing, but tribes are not doing that. So this right here is a great day in the Cherokee Nation when you can take one of your programs that's working inside the Cherokee Nation businesses and work hand in hand with the government for us to go and put people to work in those arenas in Ochaleta, Bartlesville, Jay, wherever we're building and adding on to these facilities, we'll be able to tap the market and get our Cherokees out there building them. And then once they're built, when Connie is trying to staff those, we're going to be able to be on the sidelines trying to get people trained, because we know that those clinics and facilities are going to be built within the next 3 to 4 years, and she's going to have the need for these health clinicians. So we're already gearing up, because that's where the jobs are right now. So it's a win-win for us. We're excited about it. We're excited that we were asked to be at the table. I've been at all the construction meetings with Cheryl and our staff. Shane Kirby, I think some of you all know Shane. Well, Shane's working in the business and economic development area, and he's been working with Sean and his staff, and he's brought GW back over to work in the construction. You can't find WC. I get his name mixed up, but anyway, he's brought him back into the arena, and we have a really good team working out there. And I think in 2 to 3 years, you're going to be able to see what we've been able to accomplish, and I think you'll be real proud of it. And there's nothing that we won't be able to do. And we're the largest tribe in the United States, and it's about time we started doing this. So I commend them for what they're doing. And this mentor protege does work, and I know that Councilman Byrd can attest to that.
Okay, Cheryl, I have a question for you. Why don't you go straight to a Texas non-taro company?
Well, we didn't go straight to a Texas non-taro company. We looked at the current certified taro firms and realized that the largest of the two, of the apparel firms that are out there right now are about the same size we are, and they didn't have the capability really to mentor us the way we might need. So then we started looking outside, and we ended up with HWH because we had already had formed a relationship with them, and we were surprised that they had as much healthcare experience as they did. So that's
8 months ago, when you started looking, 8 months ago, when you started looking at HWH, did you look at material companies 8 months ago that was on the list?
Oh, yes.
Forgive me, maybe I'm wrong, but Flintco was on the list at one time. I know it's not now. Why didn't you look at Flintco?
Yeah, they came to
No,
us,
Cheryl.
Okay.
well, I'm the one that signed the
Okay.
contract.
Okay.
So,
Sign what contract?
Sign what contract?
the contract that we've got with HWH to do all kinds of mentorship, any mentorship in the 8A, it's 3.5%. That's what she just told you a while ago. And Flintco has dropped out of the Terrell certification. So there is no, like Cheryl said, there is no large construction company out there that could provide that same type of mentorship road to us.
Sean, I may be wrong talking out of turn. I'm not pushing for Flintco or anybody else, but I know they haven't dropped out because Flintco didn't sell all their business, and Robin is 100% owned. The office that she kept, and I think it's going through Terrell certification.
Well, we were told that they had.
Yeah, let me tell you that back in early November, I met with Flintco's CEO and the president of their company and talked to them about opportunities that might be within the Cherokee Nation. And it was a very candid meeting. I had several of my people there, and I said, you know, we've chased you guys for 5 years. You know, we've tried to team with you time and time and time again, and we have. We have tried to team with them. They've always declined us. And I said, you know, why now? Why now do you want to work with us when we've already kind of set up a relationship now because you wouldn't work with us before with another company? And I'll just be honest, they told us that they were told not to work with us.
Have you talked to us yet?
Since November? No.
No. Since the admin changed over? Because I'm looking at
Well, no, because they've
3.5%, you're
sold
telling me
now.
that HWH
No.
is charging you?
Yeah, no, they've sold now, so they're, you know, they're Alvarezi. They're not a Taro firm. They're not, I mean, we really have tried to work with them for 5 years. We've tried to get a mentor protege with them. We've tried to work with them on many, many projects. And sometimes they kind of, you know, we've come right up to the bid package time and they've pulled out. So they have not been very friendly with our organization and trying to work.
Why is HWH so high on the 3.5%?
So high, that's
Yeah.
that's the same rate we've been paying Flintco.
But I know for a fact that there was some numbers floating around because we was in several meetings that was a lot lower than that.
That's the number that we have talked with them about.
Okay, because
What
half the
kind of-
percent is
Yeah.
a lot. I won't tell you what I've got a problem with. I've got a problem with, I worked for the casinos at one time, and I helped make them dividend dollars that come back to the nation. And they were made on Cherokee's backs, Cherokee's time, Cherokee's doing a good job. And now you want me to take that money and send it out of state to a Texas group and not spend it with other Cherokees. And that's the problem I'm having. I'm here in this seat because I am Cherokee, and I have always pulled for Tara, and I am for keeping the dollars here. And I'll tell you something else, Cheryl, nothing against you, but here a while back when we bought the durable medical equipment company, we said in this chambers last term, and said we would not compete against our Taro vendors. And I feel like we're out there competing against our Taro general contractors with you, because they're getting cut out of this.
And I don't believe that. I truly don't. And you all can get, you know, furious at me, and so can Sean if he wants, but, you know, we are a Cherokee-owned firm. You know, that's what we're here to do. We go out and market and do work with the federal government to bring profit dollars back to the Cherokee Nation for the benefit of the Cherokee people. And I'm very proud of that. You know, I am a Cherokee. I want those dollars to come back. No other tribal entity or ANC does what we do. This is, like Diane said, this is a great day for the Cherokee Nation. This is a good thing for us. But, you know, why would we subcontract, why would we contract with someone to do something that we can do and keep those dollars at home? Now, if we need contractor support, we did look at our tarot vendors, and there isn't another vendor of the size that we need to support us. That's why we looked for a larger company outside.
So there's no tarot vendors that can bond up to a $10 million clinic?
I don't know, maybe John is here, maybe he knows that, or maybe Diane knows that.
Diane, is there no tarot vendors that can bond up to a $10 million clinic?
I don't think so, not this time.
Would you run that? Because I think they are.
I did talk to Robin. Robin came up to the office about 3 more weeks ago.
No, I'm not talking Flintco, I'm talking about our other generals out there.
Okay.
Because 2 or 3 of them's called me and they can bond up to $10 million.
But can they do the mentor protege?
I'm not sure about that.
Well, these vendors, those tarot vendors have an opportunity to bid on these entire packages.
The generals do? That'd be
Yeah.
adding another layer.
In subcontract.
It happens all the time.
You just now talked about why would we add another layer?
Well, that's true, and we wouldn't add another layer, but if another one of these tarot vendors that is a general contractor wants to bid on an entire package, he can do that, as long as his price is good. Because
So
it's a
add another layer.
competitive, it's gonna be competitive through the tarot process.
That's what we were promised. So, you just heard her say.
I'm finished for now.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Counselor Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess we'll start with Cheryl. Your old company, is it CCRC? I can't keep all those.
I know, we use those acronyms a little bit too much and they get confusing quite a bit, yes.
And the new one that Ryan is with, CNRC?
Yeah, Cherokee Nation Construction Resources, CNCR.
And who is Kevin over, who's he, what's?
He works.
Kevin's our Director of Construction. Our Director of Construction.
Of Cherokee Nation
Businesses. Cherokee
Or
Nation
CMB.
Businesses.
Okay. And the I listened to the Attorney General a while ago talk to us about reinvesting our money back to us. And I agree with him, and I wonder, it sounds like we're going to go down, and I'll ask you two probably, Doug and Sean, I would imagine, are we going to go down, are you guys going to borrow this money, or are you going to spend that money as we construct?
It'll be probably a little bit of both if we do all the projects that are out there on our 5-year capital plan. There'll be a point, just like in the past, where we did that line for a little while, and then we'll pay that back down through the gaming profits.
And if we clear a certain amount of money a year, it sounds like to me we've got the money to do that in cash, is that?
Well, it just kind of depends on where you are within that cycle. Some cycles we would not, and we'd have to hit the line, and some cycles we would, to cash fund that.
Timing has a lot to do with it. Where all the projects come into play during that time, across the years, and as it relates to our cash flow generation from month to month to month. And does that answer?
I think so, but I'm sitting here wondering, since it's our money anyway, and since we generate enough money annually to, by the time we construct it, it's going to go over at least a 2-year period.
Right.
I don't see the necessary means for borrowing. I guess it's worth it.
Well,
We may not go out online. We don't know.
it's just a timing issue. How fast can you build them versus how fast do you get the money in?
And the larger impacting item is where does, let's say it's across a 2-year period, okay? And say that the healthcare component of our capital plan for the next 5 years, just the healthcare component to it, spans across a 24 to 30 month period for construction and capital and cash outlays. When we look at that, the larger impacting item that affects when we will go out on our line of credit is impacted by when our strategic expansion projects come into play far more than these health facilities.
And by strategic expansion, what's that? Is that
Well-
casinos or what?
Or whatever. That would be a piece of it. There's some opportunities out there to gain some market share.
There's not much left. We don't know.
Well, we think that there is based on some research.
I'll ask that question later.
And if I could, part of that real quick, and Dick too, that part of the reason why when Sean mentioned it and I did too, that the board was excited and CMB is excited to play in this because typical capital outlays require certain thresholds to be met when it comes to return on investments and payback periods, as Councilor Watts addressed it earlier. The board has understood and recognized that these outlays may not be able to support a 20 or 25 or 15 or whatever thresholds of return on our capital outlay. They realize that because they also realize that the Cherokee Nation will receive 35% of that return, right, each year, nation through a dividend. In this way, the Cherokee Nation receives 100% of that return, not 35, 100%, because you're not strapped with that financing burden. If not, if there was a return on investment requirement on this capital outlay, there would, yeah, we could do that, and it would be measured and viewed like it was some third-party investment out here trying to generate positive cash flows and net incomes that you guys would, the nation would get 35% of. This way, it's 100% benefit to the nation.
So you're ready to pony up the money as we get construction of the, I guess, what I'm asking.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And Cheryl, of course, she said that she's too short.
Sean's standing in front of me.
I know, he's, you know. Once you get the green light and get all the drawings and get all the environmental and show up at the job site, what, on these clinics at least, what's your opinion on construction?
I'm gonna let Ryan answer that. Construction times. Based on the land acquisition and getting the environmentals and getting our pre-construction activities done, we think we are able to time these so that we can have maybe 2 of them going at the same time. They'll be at different phases that be able to go at the same time.
And we're not doing them all at once?
We'll do as many of them as we can, and once we've got the financial capacity to do it, just do it. I don't know, is it a 24-month direction or 18?
With the hospital included, we're looking at more like a 3-year, 36.
How about just the clinics?
Just the clinics, we're projecting, it looks like Mankiller or Bartlesville would be the farthest out, and that would be September, end of September 2014. As of right now.
About 18.
And that's what that's been able to kick off right away.
Yeah, let's get, we can get started.
How many contracts have been signed with just the HQ? You're us, I keep forgetting that.
We haven't bid anything out yet. We're still in the development of what does it look like and all of that. We just signed an agreement that says 3.5% will go to do that.
So there's not a contract, just an agreement?
It's a teaming agreement.
If you use them or you are using them?
We made the decision to use them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fraley.
Just had a couple of questions. Doug, what is the status? I think a lot of these questions could be answered if we see the business plan. What is the status of the business plan?
Well, I have a financing plan that I use as it relates to the revolver line of credit. And all the cash flow. And, well, to a certain degree, it would, as it pertains to how is the Cherokee Nation financing these plans. So, to the point that CMB's cash flows are financing. Beyond that, it's, if the forego has been determined by CMB's board to invest in the enhanced delivery system of the healthcare as a 100% return dividend versus a 35% return, then they have foregone that return on investment requirement like normal investments would have. With that, and instead of the nation receiving 35% of that annual return from that investment, they receive 100% of that return. So the business plan, when it comes to the financing, is simple inclusion into our cash flow forecast for the next 5 years, and how does it relate to a life?
In line with that, what is our role in tarot vendors? We have a bowl, and do we put the bid out to tarot and non-tarot, or how do we, what's the process?
I believe that we'll have enough work generated from these clinics to put most of the tarot vendors to work. I think we'll have to look outside the tarot vendors just because there is going to be so much work going on.
Correct. So we'll probably have to advertise, outside of just the tarot list.
So you're looking at 100% of the tarot list that you have.
They'll all be able to bid on the work, and then it's just up to how sharp their pencil is, and you know, following the bid process.
They will be given preference.
Absolutely.
On tribal dollars, I understand that we can do that and give them the 24-hour rebid. I'm not sure if any of this has federal funds attached to it or not, but that might be different. So.
This doesn't apply to the federal Redbird remodel of the old building. It doesn't apply to this. So it's only the expansions which are using this tribal money only.
So we don't have a business plan now, correct? We just have a financing plan.
A business plan for what? Connie and them have a plan for operating the clinics. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the total scope and how it's going to affect the finances, the tarot, everything involved. I mean, I know we have a financing plan, but there's more to a business plan than financing.
Yeah, I think you're.
Pardon? Okay, you got procurement and financing? Did you say procurement? I'm sorry.
No, performance.
Oh, performance. Okay. And is it all this put together into, where the council can go to your office or somebody's office and look at this or evaluate it or analyze it or whatever? Or is it just in bits and pieces?
We've done it by clinic. We've done it by facility.
So you have a different plan for each facility?
We've developed it. It hasn't been finalized, but Ryan's been developing an overall plan of how things will work, who's responsible for what, and kind of stepwise, so everybody goes, now how's this supposed to work? They can go to the plan and see that.
Like a matrix. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Fulbright.
Thank you. We've heard an awful lot here today. Most of it I'm happy to hear, especially that the CMB board is going to invest inside the 14 counties because
People ask me 3 times.
we struggled so in the past when we didn't have the cooperation of getting the cash flow. And I look at how we've waited 5 years for the dialysis center, which was a $1 million facility that took 5 years to get it done. I see this as a good way to move for better health care for all of our people. And just like the laundry at J, it may not bring in a certain amount of money each month to CMB, but it's giving all those people up there a job, which is what we need to be doing. And this will employ a lot of people And I said, I basically agree with it. You people are to be commended that you're all working together, administration, health, CMB board, especially you, Sean, trying to tie it all together. I think it's a great step forward.
Well, I probably had the least involvement in that, Janelle, but
Cheryl
and Connie and Doug and our board are 1,000% behind this. And I know once we make the announcement to our people, they're going to be turning cartwheels out there because they've been looking for this too.
Well, we second guess every decision you make, and we can think of a million pitfalls along the way, but basically I like what I've heard, and I think we're headed in the right direction here. And it's going to provide a way of us funding it ourselves.
Sure.
Instead of us trying to go out and build another casino, which I'm all for that. I want the one at Roland redone. Totally, we've been waiting a long, long time.
We're in the fortunate position where we can do both.
So, okay, that's all I have to say. Just go forward and do a good job. We have to trust each other to a certain extent.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councilor Garvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few years back, I had the privilege of meeting with Cheryl. I don't know if she remembers or not. It was kind of a cold winter night, and we was trying to decide there's a lot of people there, so. It was a cold winter night.
John, trust me, she remembered. She told me all about it.
But anyway, I think she's done a good job over the years, and CRC has been an outstanding company. We're lucky to have it. And
She has.
we made a good deal of that, and thank you for your efforts. I believe we got something going here if we all pitch in and get it together. I like what Sean said and what each one of them said. Sometime we're just going to have to do it.
Right.
And I think we're about ready to pull the hammer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Thornton.
Yes, Sean, you know how I am about Cherokees.
Yes, sir.
And when somebody comes up and make a statement nationwide, it doesn't make any difference whether it's Cherokee or it's Hispanic or it's Chinese or whatever it is. Well, it gets to my backbone a little bit. And I don't really appreciate that. I know what this is going to do for our clinics and our hospitals. I know it's going to have a big impact on our people. And it's going to better the quality and the quantity of life of each person we have that are Cherokees. But when you mention HWH, and then you mention 3.5%, well, does that 3.5% include anything that Mike Bailey gets out of this deal, his company?
To my knowledge, Mike's not involved in this
He's
at all.
not involved in anything?
To my knowledge, he is not, no.
When you go outside the Cherokee Nation, and you get in Oklahoma and look around, there's not any companies that can do this work that HWH is doing. But then when you go outside of Oklahoma, I know companies in California, companies in New York, companies that would be great to bring in to do this, what they're doing, but because the money's tight nowadays. And people's not going to, and these companies are going to drop their prices to come in and help because they do a good job. They may get something else.
Right.
But I can't agree with the HWH because I don't think you looked at that many companies. And that's my thoughts. Okay. And so, you know, I'm sure that there's other companies out there that can bond with us. And I'm sure we can go somewhere else if we wanted to. And I don't know why we went there. But I know there's companies that's built hospitals and clinics all over this country. And I don't think we went for the best percentage. I don't know why. But that's what I think. Thank you.
Can I just add something
No.
Counselor.
about a?
No.
Counselor Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Councilor Fishing Hawk first brought this up on the HWH. I appreciate Councilor Thornton's comments. And I too wanted to ask, you made the statement that you were told you couldn't use it, correct? You were told that you had to use HWH? So the individual who introduced you, was that kind of a precursor to that's the way we want to go?
No, Mike Bailey introduced us to HWH, I believe, last May or June. They came in and sat down with us to look at our operation. I got the impression that they thought that they could come in and help us learn how to do government contracting because they had helped other Native American and tribal owned firms in the past. I think we surprised them because we already had our own body of work. We knew what we were doing with the federal government, and we already had a pretty good book of business, and we already had some good partnerships set up with larger companies. And then they started talking to us about our partnership that we had set up with CH2 and Hill back east at Dover Air Force Base. And that's been a very lucrative partnership for us. But what I wanted to say to Councilor Thornton was that when you work with a large company, you don't do that overnight and out of the blue. When you are looking for a mentor, you try to kind of get to know this company and see if they're going to be able to really help you without trying to run over you. What can we get from them? It took us 2.5 years of talking with CH2 and Hill before we ever agreed to do a project with them, because we wanted to make sure that they had our interest at heart, that they were truly going to be a mentor to us and allow us to grow our business, because our mission is very clear. You know, we're here for the benefit of the Cherokee people, and we can't be used as a pass-through at all. We have to get what we need out of a relationship with a larger company. So the more we talked with HWH, the more they tried to convince us that they had our best interest at heart, and that they had worked with other Indian tribes and they knew how to work with us. So we started working with them on a very small level, just to see if they truly were interested in helping raise us up and our capabilities. And so far, we've really enjoyed that. We've liked working with them.
Did Mike Bailey get permission for introducing?
No.
And he
Not
only...
not
he
to my
only-
knowledge, Lee.
Yeah.
We don't have any contract whatsoever with Mike in any way, shape, form, or fashion with anything.
He's just a good guy. That would be passing on.
To my knowledge, Mike is a good guy.
Yes.
He is Choctaw, huh?
Yes, sir,
But
he is Choctaw.
non-Cherokee, so I was wondering what the connection there is, but that's for another time. But I working at the casino, I've seen those mentoring programs not work, and so I hope this does work. What I've seen is that, say the HWH, I'll just pick on them, that they will be the ones who hire people to help us, and all our jobs will go, or the good jobs will, that's who will get HWH will get provide a good job that we want. So, and I hope this is not going to be the case, and I think all the council would like to hear your progress on that, some actual numbers that we can measure and identify. And I know you're at the early stages now, that please keep in mind as you go forward, please keep us more informed, and I think everyone will be happier in the long run. So, and I think someone said we're always going to be second guessing you, but that's just part of it. But if you do that up front, like you are doing now, that will be a good thing as we move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Anglin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Cheryl, this may, or well, it could be John. I had, this HWH, I know nothing about. But I know there's Osage, and I'm not promoting an Osage construction company whatsoever. But I know there's a $300 million bondable Osage Manhattan in Tulsa that just built the St. Francis Children's Hospital. Huge, huge job. Probably 300,000 square feet. How did they not getting liquor. And I know they're working Cherokees, because they're working in Tulsa, they're from Tulsa, their office is right in Tulsa.
I
They're local.
met with Bourbon Hamilton, who has the Osage Construction Company recently, and he wanted me to mentor him. He said that they don't have a relationship with Manhattan anymore, or they dissolved their relationship with Manhattan.
They need to take off the website, don't they?
I was confused a little bit by that.
So, well, I can't support an HW, I can't support our money going to Texas. I think there's, I'm just like Jody, I think there's Robin's still around somewhere.
Thank you, Councilor England. We got Madam Speaker, and then we've got two more.
Well, I've listened to all of what you all had to say today, and here's kind of what I'm seeing. 2 years ago, when I was reelected, my constituents kept wanting to know, what are you doing with the casino dollars? How is it coming back into our communities? How is it benefiting the Cherokee people? And what I'm hearing today is you are willing to put $80 to $100 million into expanding our health system, which will provide better health services for our Cherokee people. You're willing to put the Cherokee money back in the 14 counties. I'm excited about that, and I'll tell you why, because I hated the fact we bought those companies in Colorado, and those companies did not provide one Cherokee job that was done during the first 4 years, I guess, that I was on the council. I fought it, I hated it, I still hate it today. We've had this talk with Sean before. I kept asking, why do we have these companies? I understand they fit into our 5 areas that we want to develop in and get a return on our dollar. But what you're doing now does excite me. You're bringing the money back to the Cherokee people. You're providing a service to the Cherokee people. And frankly, folks, I don't believe the tribe could have went out and borrowed $80 to $100 million. I don't believe we're in a position to do that. I understand the lease purchase idea that you're advancing here. It will let us pay basically over a period of time money that we can pay. Where if we went to a bank, they're going to set the payments and they don't care whether you have hard times, good times, bad times. These are folks that we can work with on the payback effort over a period of time. What we make, we can pay this money back. You'll get a little return on your dollar. It will improve our ability to get federal contracts. I'm excited about that. I am not here on the council to micromanage how the end result occurs. We are here to make sure that our taro vendors are taken care of. We seem to hear a lot about Manhattan. Manhattan's not one of our taro vendors. I want to give them a chance. I'm not going to sit here and micromanage what you all do. I will call you every day if taro vendors call me and tell me they're not getting a chance to get in on helping to build these clinics and this hospital. But am I going to sit here and micromanage how you're going to put the finance part of it together? No. I have heard a lot about clinics. I haven't heard about the hospital. I want to see the timeline of when the hospital dirt will get turned. I'm up to 11 or 12 medicines now. I may need the hospital in the future. So I would like to see the dirt get turned on that and we get started building that for our people. Folks, I think what this comes down to is we have passed the resolution that says advance our health system. We have left it in the capable hands of the health department within our tribe, and they have went to C&B and they have worked out a financing plan. Let's let them get started. We're going to knock this ball down the road far enough that we'll still be sitting here 2 years from now arguing about who's getting part of the job. I want to see them build. I believe that we need to let these people move forward. And let's don't micromanage. That's not what our job is. Our job is not to micromanage. Our job is to tell them this is what we want, get it done. And that's what they're trying to provide to us today, is information how they're going to do it. I want to commend you for what you all done. Nothing's going to be perfect. We're not all going to be happy about the decisions that they make, but we all want the end result, and that end result is better health for our people and better jobs within the 14 counties. And that's what this idea is providing. So I want to see them move forward. Tell me when you're going to turn the dirt at the hospital and I'll be there.
We'll send you an invitation.
All right, thank you. Just don't make it on a council day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've got two more on the list. We've got Councilor Karen Watson and Councilor Fishing Hawk. Councilor Karen Watson, is your question
Yes,
answered?
thank you. No, it is not answered. Apparently now our AG's office now thinks that we do not have to have TARO compliance on projects that are using federal funds, and I think that is not the case, so help me clarify that.
I didn't say we didn't have to have TARO for everything. They're gonna be complying with TARO.
Because that's not what I heard.
He asked if there was federal money, and I said, no, it's tribal. That was the question.
Okay, but if it is a project, just so that, to clear the air, so if it is federal funds being used, we would still have TARO compliance.
We'll have TARO compliance no matter what.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fishing Hawk.
I'm texting back and forth with the Attorney General, and I'll ask his office just now. I told him that I don't like the idea of the money going out of state tax year. This is something that was a council initiative. This is something we wanted. And I guess you're here to answer for him because he's picking up his son. I'm wanting to know if there's anything I can do for the people on my behalf. This may not be the council's wishes, it may get voted down, to assure that this money is going to stay with the local TARO vendors inside the 14 counties. I was told last month from the AG's office that no papers have been signed, the chief was holding off on all this. He was going to wait until we hashed all this out. Today I'm told that there's some papers signed.
The paperwork is between us. It's not anything to do with the nation.
Okay, maybe I need to ask you, Sean.
Okay?
If it was the majority of the council's wishes, not for this to go to HWA, not for this to go to a Texas company, what would be the answer? With you and the board?
We do everything we can to comply with the nation's laws and regulations and wishes on both sides. I mean, you know, we're not here to be adversarial or controversial. We just want to get started. And we've looked at everything, and we feel like this is the best way that, you know, we can accomplish several goals here. So, you know.
Is there any way of what you signed to back out of HWA?
Well, I would have to get it out and look at what it said as far as a break, because I don't remember that off the top of my head. But I think that we feel like this is the best way for us to go forward with this project.
Attorney General's look at this.
You're asking how we get out of that.
I want it to get zero, it's 100% zero. Here a while back, we've done that with one of our buildings we was building. I think it's when Chief Baker was on the council, he put forth a resolution that said we want our building to be done possibly with 100% zero members. And we just about got there. I think it might have been on Ramona. I cannot remember. I'll have to look it up.
It was Ramona, we got really close.
That's what I want to do with this. I don't want 3.5% going down to Kansas.
Their intent is to use TARO. They are going to go forward with TARO vendors all the way, as much as they possibly can, until there are no TARO vendors, and then they have to go outside. If they've got all of the TARO vendors working, then they have to go outside to be able to comply with getting this done in a period of time. That would be when they go outside of that. Their intent, everything we've discussed with them, we were very clear with them. You know, the TARO laws will apply, TARO certified companies, be contract.
They've already met with somebody that wasn't inside here.
That's not, I mean, we did, that was before we ever started.
Jody, we have every intent of hiring every TARO firm that we can that's competitive in the bid process.
I know you have every intent, Sean.
And that's what we've done in the past.
In the middle of this, I promise.
Well, we don't want in the middle of it.
Yes, I'm sure you don't. That's why I'm addressing. I don't know if the simple thing will be a resolution such as we did with the Ramona. Does anybody have an answer?
Refer to your attorney if you're wanting to know what action you guys take to get what you're. Because I know from our standpoint, we push forward that whenever Tara.
I just speak once. I'll be right back.
Well, just listening to the discussion, I think HWH is only a consultant, and that what you said, they're all gonna have to be Terrell certified. They're not gonna be doing any hirings.
No, HWH is not doing any of the hiring.
Councilor
Are they asking a consultant as a general capacity? They ask, is that what they're acting at?
Cheryl is the construction, they're just a consultant for her.
All they're gonna do is consult with us when we need them. Like when we put together the big package for the hospital.
At 3.5%.
It could be 3.5%. I can go back and try to negotiate them down as low as I can get them. But they're only gonna act as a consultant. They're not gonna hire people, and they're not gonna put people on our jobs.
I think you need to go back and call our tarot vendors and ask them what percentage they can come up with.
And again, we don't have a tarot vendor that has the capacity to mentor us or consult to us like we were looking at HWH bond. There's not one large enough.
They may not be able to mentor you, they may be able to do the job themselves.
They may be able to what?
Do the job without you. They may want to bid it and be the general.
Well, that's the whole purpose. We don't want that. We want to build our internal capabilities as an organization so that she can go get government work, hire Cherokees and take care of that. That's what this is all about. We don't have that on our resume. And my understanding from her is you can't, they won't talk to you in the government world to build a medical facility if you don't have past prior experience. And one of the questions she says they ask is, well, you've got healthcare clinics and hospitals in your own tribe. How many of those did you build? And she has to say none. So that's the other piece of this that the nation gets a benefit. And when they go out on those jobs, it is an opportunity to take Cherokee construction workers or people like Ryan that are project managers and get them experience out there. So, there's several benefits short term, and there's a lot of benefits to this long term.
If there's a contract already been signed and we breach that contract, there would be some kind of penalties. It would cost us money, and we don't need to lose money, but I don't know, if there's a contract already been signed, it could be a breach of
Chairman,
contract.
could I ask a point of clarification?
Certainly.
On the contract.
Certainly, Councilor.
Is this a personal services contract, or is this a vendor contract like you would normally go through a tender, payroll bid process?
It's kind of the consulting deal. If they introduce us to 8A work, we'll pay X%. They'll provide these services such as what Cheryl's talking about, mentorship, that kind of thing.
I guess part of the question is, does somebody get around there?
No. Anybody could submit, anybody out there in the industry could have brought forward some contract to enter into a mentor relationship with us, and these have to be one that have done that.
Do you have additional questions, Councilor?
I was about to say, the attorney general just now texted me back because I asked him the same questions I'm asking right now about the contract, and he said table it till next month. He will get an opinion out on it.
Can we table the discussion for a month, Councilor?
Yeah, until he's going to get an opinion out on the contract with HWA.
Before we take the privilege of the acting chair, before we take a vote on tabling, is further delay in the discussion by this body going to hold up the construction of the clinics in our areas, the hospital? Is it gonna slow this planning down? I mean, it's good to have this debate, but my concern is this slowing things down?
I think we would like to have a consensus that everybody's on board and we're moving forward. We're going to continue the planning process.
Well, all right, that's the information I needed. Council Fishing Hawk, are you making a motion to table?
Yes. Until the Attorney General can figure out about it.
Table,
It's in now.
Well, I think what I'm hearing is a motion to table this item to next month. That's what I understood the motion.
If it's gonna hold up time, I guess we could recess it till before the date that we're meeting for council.
All right.
How many days? That'd be good.
Okay, so you want to recess this meeting until March 11th?
Yeah.
Can we?
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Yes.
Has it been confirmed, is that what I heard earlier, that we're going to move the dialysis center's grand opening in Salisal that morning?
I don't know what the status of that is.
Yes, I think it's confirmed they are going to move it.
Thank
We
you.
have requested that we change it to a different date.
We're doing it.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for.
Council Fishing Hawk, if your motion is to recess,
Not until after consent.
let's try to plow through as much of this agenda as we can. So make a motion to table this to the end of this
I
agenda.
make a motion. Table it to the new agenda.
Second.
It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Sean. New business item number 1. Councilor Byrd, would you take this?
This is a resolution authorizing submission of a grant application to Department of Housing, Urban Development for a community development block grant application for a Cherokee Court Mall retail incubator. I put that in form of a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Councilor. Next is new business item number 2, act amending, or budget mod 6. Council Fishing, how can you take that? New business 2, Council.
I move for its approval.
Second.
That's a half-hearted motion. Second.
I don't even know why he's cheering.
And Mr. Reese, give us a brief but informative summary of this budget modification.
There's 11 budgets for $4,589,240. Item 1 is the One Fire Helping Victims. It's a gen fund budget to authorization of $30,000 and be funded by donations. Item 2, Marshal Service, Department of Interior Self-Governance, modification requesting an increase in expenditure authorization of $515,400. This is to allow for one-time funding that has come in from the Department of Interior. It was for supplies and capital acquisitions. Item 3, Employment Assist, Client Services, Department of the Interior Self-Governance, modification requesting an increase in expenditure authorization of $53,000. Time funding from Department of Interior that's allocated to training costs. Item 4, Public Law 102-477, Child Care, modification requesting an increase in expenditure authorization of $2,540,000. It's an increase in prior year carryover of $2,952,000 and a decrease in grant revenue of $415,000 in the current year, and an increase in estimated other income of $3,831. Item 5, ES Court, Department of Interior, Public Law 102-477. It's a $49 reconciliation of interest. Item 6, Transitional Emergency Housing, NAHASDA, modification requesting an increase in expenditure authorization of $540,000 to fund needs beyond the original budget request. I had requested additional information on this, and it's attached behind the budget. Basically, they've had higher than anticipated need in this area. Item 7, Human Services, Resident Services, NAHASDA funding, an increase of $215,000. Same as item 6, I've requested additional information on this, and it's based on higher than anticipated need in this area. And additional information was attached behind the budget. Item 8, ICW Angels of Cherokee, Special Revenue, modification requesting an increase in expenditure authorization of $10,000 funded by reserved carryover funds. Item 9, Commercial Loan Fund, Enterprise, modification requesting an increase in expenditure authorization of $341,000, and it's offset in increase in transfer in tribal funded account from the ICDBG Micro Loan Fund, which is item number 10. It's a transfer from item number 10 to item number 9. Number 11, Gammon Education Trust. It's a permanent fund. The interest of $1,749 is being transferred to the Cherokee Nation Foundation. $1,600 of that's carryover interest and $125 current year interest.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. We have a motion and a second. Councilor Councilor Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jody Campbell on number 6 and 7. The NAHASDA funds are already in there, and we're just approving more into
Yes.
And how are we're being pretty conservative as far as looking ahead. We may have to do this again based on what the report said.
This is a projection to get them through the year, so.
To the end of September.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions for Mr. Reese? Very good. Councilor Fishing by acclamation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. Councilor Fishing is number 3 really duplicative of number?
Because I think you're closing on some this month, so I don't have enough money.
Okay. You want to table that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We now move back to our table agenda. We have reports. Appreciate the patience of the people reporting, and just ask that you give very brief highlights if anything needs to be added, and Treasurer Horn.
Okay. Give me a moment here to tomorrow, the Budget Control Act of 2011 sequestration will kick into effect if there is not a compromise. Regardless of a compromise by Congress and the White House or by Congress, the nation will be moving forward with a cost containment plan. First point is to enact a hiring freeze in all currently vacant non-essential positions, canceling all non-essential business travel and trainings, enacting strict overtime policies for non-exempt employees, consider delaying any capital acquisitions, i.e. furniture, computers, and equipment, review large open commitments to determine if changes in scope and or quantity could be made. We're also asking that of the carryover funding that will be coming forward, to retain a portion of that in general fund as unbudgeted to alleviate any federal shortfalls. It'll be a 5.3% decrease. This is something that we've been watching since August, and at this point in the year, you know, we have a pretty exact calculation of how that's going to affect us, and these cost containment measures will get the vast majority of our programs through the end of the year. And the one thing that is a little bit unknown at this point is how it will be implemented. We hope that the agencies will issue us new award letters so that we can budget more accordingly, and the communications are formal. But at this point, you know, we're addressing this the best way that we can.
Councilor Combs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you have a really difficult job right now, so thank you for all that. I saw the news release that was put out. There were some questions from constituents, and I wanted to make sure that I was ready to answer them. I think last month during a meeting, you had talked about being 87% forward funded. Right. So I guess the immediate cuts then are in anticipation that it will be recovered even maybe 6 months down the road. I was trying to translate how we're actually implementing what's really happening in the budget. So we're 87% forward funded for the year.
It's 83, I'm sorry, just to be.
Okay, my notes said 87, but so 83%. Moving on, we're in February, the end of February, so about halfway through this month, you know, we're 4 months in, into the fiscal year, the third. So we have like about 6 months cushion, potentially, 4, maybe. But we're gonna go ahead and implement, and I understand some of those cost savings. I mean, that would push us out further, like travel, unnecessary travel and those such things. But I was trying to translate what was in the news release to how people will be impacted. There was $8 million in the Indian Health Service dollars. So what was the final analysis, like, for example, on what we're going to do on the increase to provider salaries? How are we balancing those kind of decisions with what's in front of us?
And let me just preface that before Connie answers your question, that sequestration has been a part of every conversation that we have had when anything like the provider salaries has come up. You know, we discussed this and how will that impact us. So it's figured into every calculation, but I'll let Connie address how it will impact our budgets.
I met with our finance people yesterday, and we have been meeting, as Lacey said, for several months and kind of planning what worst case scenario, what are we going to do. But to specifically address the question concerning provider salaries, right now we're $7 million over budgeted revenue. So we needed $1 million of that, and that should more than take care of us.
So we're $7 million over budget in revenue. It'll take $1 million to accommodate the additional salaries. But I had a question on the third-party revenues. I guess from prior year, we're up $10 million, which in billings and third-party billings and such. That's a significant change. I mean, have we really been that successful?
I think some of the work that our people from the private practice that have come in, their expertise and having to eat what they kill, so to speak, is really going to benefit us. And specifically in the dental program, we've had extra staff displaced in Sallisaw. So Dr. Jones has tasked them with going back to the previous year and evaluating our billing and collecting in Medicaid only. And they had gotten my latest report was about 2 weeks ago, but just through about mid-February of 2012, we found about $500,000 in unbilled and uncollected funds. And we're just getting started. We also discovered by accident that we had only billed 60 surgeries in the month of December. We performed over 300. So I just got the report yesterday from a consultant company. We had come in and evaluate our billing and our collecting process. I'm going to review that, and we're putting some new expectations in that whole finance department, because I think, just to be candid, we've become too comfortable and too complacent and dependent on the government. And health has got to run like a business, and that is our plan.
And just to clarify, that was November 2012 on that surgery issue?
No, December 2012.
Okay, so just 1 month, that would be a significant difference.
Yes.
Okay, so how does that translate? So the news release says 8 million in federal budget cuts for Indian Health Services. And the news release alludes that we are going to cut services before we cut jobs. That's the way I read the news release. So help me understand what we're gonna end up doing.
I'll address the news
Okay.
release. And before Connie goes, yes, our
Thank you,
group has
Connie.
been really driving it home on making sure that we get every dollar that we deserve. The news release. As far as jobs, no one's losing their job. Services, we're going to try to keep it the same level possible. These cost containment measures are really going to help us get there, but there's going to have to be a balance somewhere. And so this is not our fault. This is the federal government across the board slashing their spending. And so we can provide a level of service, we believe, at the same degree if we follow these measures.
So maybe some feedback you can take is when this news release came out, the immediate, the way I read it, and the way others I think read it, was that there would be cuts in services immediately. So,
well,
that's
I'm sorry that
comforting.
there's that misinterpretation. We're trying to balance and deal with it as best we can. And as you know, we're heavily dependent on the federal government funding our services. And when that gets cut, we'll try to balance it the best way possible.
Okay, one last question. How will the contingency reserve, how will that be used, or will it be used during this process?
We don't have any plans to. Cash reserve is fully funded to the legal limit at $3.8 million. And then we also have that additional $5 million line of credit. We're in good shape there. We don't have, like I said, plans to. But then again, we're in a bit of an unknown situation. We're in a political game right now. We're right in the middle of it. And, how it really goes into effect is really yet to be determined.
I guess this can't be answered here, but if the programs know that there's potentially, like I think you've outlined about 4 or 5 key programs here, how will, if there's people on existing food distribution, for example, and I'm just using an example for all programs, do we have a policy in place that if we have to cut people, who will be cut and how that will be determined? I mean, I understand
We're not
accepting
there
new
yet.
folks.
We're not there yet. This is gonna, we believe, get us through this fiscal year. And we're likely looking at more cuts going down, down the line for 10 years.
And I would agree, I agree with your assessment that it does not look good financially, not necessarily but from the federal reliance. So where's the policy in place before we get there, so we're not deciding when we get into an emergency or after the fact, if it's Buell and I on a program or service, who decides who gets cut if one of us has to be cut? That's what I'm asking.
Sure, I appreciate that.
So if we could, I would like to understand what those policies and procedures would be if we go into that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further questions for the treasurer?
I just have a couple.
Counselor Fairley.
She asked a lot of what I was going to ask, but what are the amount of grants that are not forward funding and amount of cash needed to cover those grants? Those that are not forward funding.
Okay. Actually, I've left it in my office, but I do have a separate breakout of forward funded drawdowns and paybacks. So I can get that to you.
Okay, thank you. Considering, she was asking about a contingency reserve.
Yes.
Considering that, how long can we weather like this sequestration without any major impact to our cash flow?
Oh,
Okay, in 2011, I asked that question, and I think it was 60 days.
getting better now. I don't know how, that would be,
The cash that's needed.
and I would believe that 60-day amount would likely apply to the grants that you're talking about that aren't forward funded. We have multi-year grants. Hoss is a good example. That money's in the bank. You know, we've got several multi-year grants with significant cash reserves in the bank. But what you're talking about is likely going to apply to those grants.
Okay. I guess that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thornton.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Ms. Horn, the question I'd like to ask you, where are we on our carryover funding report?
Carryover will be brought forward. Our audit is underway, going very well, next month. So we'll be bringing forward some of the programs that are most in need at next month's budget mod and then the following in April.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further questions for the treasurer? No questions. Thank you, Treasurer Horn. Appreciate it. Mr. Slayton, we have your report. Unless you have anything to add, or if there are any questions for you, the report stands on its own. Any questions for Mr. Slayton? Mr. Thornton? No. Okay.
I think Joe's. Mr.
Counselor-
Slayton, mine more or less is not a question. It's the type of thing that, you know, that I've supported you for 16 years.
Right.
I'll support you in this. I may not like part of it, but I'll support you. But as far as micromanagement,
Yes, sir.
when you start to work on south side,
Right.
have me one of those hard hats, will you, down there, so I can come down on the job?
We will do that. And just to brief the council, that feasibility study is underway. It's been probably 2 weeks now, and they're starting to send in their questions to us.
Yeah.
So that's moving along.
Okay, thank you.
Gotta give him a shovel, him too.
Yeah. Got a broom.
Counselor Bird.
I can do that too.
Sean, as a self-governance tribe, we have to pursue what that actually means. In '96, when the Secretary of State was still here, we had devised a plan. The federal government shut down. It literally shut down.
Right.
We didn't have the revenue that's coming in now. We were counting pennies. In some of the proposals that you have presented us with, I like, because we're headed down that road of self-governance, not depending on the third party. We talked about a mentorship earlier. 3 years, 5 years down the road, I hope we don't have to depend on somebody mentoring us. We should be mentoring them.
Right.
Correct?
Absolutely.
And that's what I see now. Cherokee Springs, we've already changed the name, is that correct?
Yes, sir. In process.
And I hope you would pursue that property, the golf course. That's not the money maker. We know that if you break even, you'll be lucky.
Right.
And you'll have to inject some funds into that. I hope you pursue that property like you did Catoosa, because we gave a very minimum amount for that property, and look what you guys have done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Comwatz.
Thank you. I have 2 questions.
Sure.
I think you reported in an earlier meeting a couple of months ago that Bassmaster Classic sponsorship was $500,000.
200 and 300.
Okay, so after it's all said and done, our cost, either in kind or cash, are still at $500,000.
Right.
Okay, and then how much is it? I know there was a news release, I guess today or yesterday or 2 days ago about Cherokee Springs, whatever we're naming it now, and how much will all of those and remodel and all those, what does that cost?
Well, we're going to put about, initially about $1 million into that to bring it up to what we think is a good standard. It's not over the top. There'll probably be a few more things as we go along that we do. Off that right at $1.5 million and add $1 million to it. We paid almost $7 million for the one up at Catoosa, so we really feel and felt like we got a deal here on that.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Hanglin.
Thank you. Sean, this may be another one for Cheryl, but if we're using our own money to build these clinics,
Yes, sir.
well, why do we need a mentor if she's going to be the general contractor?
The mentor, she's not, her company hasn't built anything of this size. And so what you get a mentor for is to help you with the plans and the construction methods and things like that. You know, it's not like the buildings. I think right now she's working on Riverside, and that's about a $20 million deal, I believe, Cheryl. Getting a lot of experience off of that, but again, you know, the number of those at the same time and how to manage that and all the technical things that go along with that is what, it's basically an insurance policy.
Anything further, Councilor Hanglin? Very good. Madam Speaker.
Yes, I just want to make sure I understood you. You all paid about $7 million for the Catoosa property that you now have.
Right, the initial purchase was 4.4. We bought another 158 acres, or another 90 acres, I believe, for $1.3 million. So that puts us up to about 5.7, and then we made $3 million in improvements there. Built a new clubhouse, and we moved the back 9. The front 9 became the back 9.
And that was just
Cherokee.
the golf course.
Yes.
It was a pasture, as I recall, wasn't it?
At
Kind of a
Catoosa?
pasture area.
Catoosa, it was kind of in the same condition in terms of not a lot of capital had gone into it. At one time, it was a really, really nice facility. The tornado came through, tore it up. The owners hadn't put any capital into it, so it was in need of repair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Any further questions? Councilor Crown Watts.
Thank you. Is that contiguous to our existing trust facility and casino in Catoosa when you purchased it?
Yes.
Is that the Tulsa market?
Is the golf course, the price for that?
That was in
Yeah,
the
we
Tulsa
felt like
market,
that was
correct.
the right price.
And how far away, what's the distance between now Cherokee Springs and our 9-hole in Sequoia?
I don't know, 6 miles maybe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Slade? No questions. Thank you, Sean. Career Services, Diane Kelly, do you have anything that we need to highlight that's not on your report?
The residual started 2 months ago at Job Corps, and I've been telling you guys about it. We've been on conference calls with Department of Labor because it is a contract, it's not a grant, and they finally told us on our conference call this week exactly how much money we actually need to come up with. And as a result of our freeze that we have going on, we have detailed a couple of our recruiters. I'd like to introduce John Sprout, who's actually going to fill the vacancy that Nettie Deathridge had up in the northern end. He's going to be working Claremore and Bonita. John Stroud, he's been with us for, how long have you been with us, John? Almost 4 years. He's from up around the Grove area, grew up around that area. Yes. And then Molly Pettit out of Sallisaw, she's going to be working down in Sallisaw. She was also one of our recruiters, so she'll be working with Scotty in Sallisaw. I think most of y'all know Molly, she's been around for a long time. One of the things that we did is we did start meeting with HR, and I think one of the questions you had was, is there a process in place? The HR department does have a matrix in place for anybody that's actually detailed, moved, or laid off. So there is a matrix in place for that. Just wanted to let you know, because we did cross that bridge. And we will be on conference calls tomorrow with Department of Labor on other programs.
Councilor Crown Watts had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Diane, I think last month or after last month or sometime last month, we had visited about the Terra law and the Section 7 funds. All funds from employer fees and other sources collected by the Terra shall be tribal funds and be allocated to job training programs developed by the Terra staff and approved by the council. After we had the chance to discuss, and I clarified, did you find out that there was anything different, that there were, per the law, things set aside, or is it still that we approved the budget because we didn't go back and specifically exercise this law?
I visited with the AG, Mr. Hembry, regarding this, and basically what happened was when the budgets are approved by the council, then we actually have the purview in putting that into training, and that's basically what we've done. And we are doing some training. In fact, I've got some folders here, should be giving them out. We are doing a specialized training on food and culinary. It'll start in 2 weeks for adults as a result of our Cherokee Springs and also our Hard Rock, and also I think it's summer youth, whatever you want to take out those folders, feel free to do so. But I'm trying to hurry because I'm always rushed.
Chairman, I think that this is a missed opportunity because I remember how excited I think the whole body was when we did general law reform. And the law says shall. So the way I read that, regardless of how that budget comes through, that if there are fees collected, which we know there are and it's significant, they shall be allocated to job training programs. And I don't understand that that's happening, and I'd asked for a breakout to see how we were actually, because we know, I think part of that was in response to, we were going to increase sterile fees, you know, what were we going to get from that, the boat rehab shortage and the training programs, that they always run out of money. So I would ask that we have this on the agenda for next month, that we legally review that and figure out why it's not happening today, if it's where we fell short because we didn't understand we needed to take our law and then implement it in the budget. I mean, it was implemented in the budget, then we need to review this because we are missing out on opportunities for our citizens if not.
Okay. Is it your desire to put it on the ENF agenda or the rules agenda?
Well, ENF has the employment committee's jurisdiction. Remember when we consolidated the committees, it was assumed, that's why she reports here. So I would ask that it be an agenda item and that our attorney work with AG's office and Ms. Kelly's office to review this, because this is very serious if we are not getting these funds to our citizens and getting them the training.
Yeah, I agree with that, and we'll put, with Councilor Fishinghawk's blessing, we'll put that on the ENF agenda, and then Ms. Barker-Harold, we might need to get together afterwards to discuss further, but there is that section of the Taro Act, and we want to see what the compliance has been, and it'll give us more information on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman, can I just mention one thing that I forgot to say earlier? I'm sorry.
Certainly,
Our bond rating, the release came out yesterday from Fitch. We've been reaffirmed at BBB- with a stable outlook. So it's a big kudos for the nation and the businesses.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you. Ms. Knight.
You have my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Knight on commerce?
I have one.
Yes, Councilor.
Thank you for all the details in your report all the time. I was having a hard time capturing something, and somebody asked me a question which caught me off guard. Have we seen a particular increase in defaults on mortgages and such through our programs? And do we have any oversight on that Section 184 loan program?
We don't have any oversight. I've been in communication with HUD, and there is an increase in defaults on 184s for Cherokee citizens, particularly in Oklahoma. And so we're working with them to try to analyze their list and figure out, can we contact those people? Can we offer our counseling assistance? And then I think we're going to try to put on a home ownership or a foreclosure prevention fair in the Tulsa-Muskogee areas, because those are the two highest areas.
I'm sorry, then that makes a follow-up. So can HUD assist us in slowing that process so they don't lose their home if there's a chance?
That's part of what we're working on with that.
Very good. Thank you so much, Anna. That's comforting to know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to ask you the same question. And the 184 default is different from the reports you've been doing, but the penalties listed. I noticed it wasn't on this report.
Right, that's general, that's what we report to community services, and that's general defaults in the general market, and the 184 is just a piece of that market.
Okay, will those be on the reports? what's going to be average? Maybe not.
I can't give you a default rate because I don't have the adequate information, but I can tell you the numbers and what communities they're in.
Yeah, that's all I need.
I can do that.
And the general ones, is that, you do that quarterly or every month?
We do that quarterly. That's where we can obtain the
Charitable
information from
community
the Federal
assistance.
Reserve.
Okay, we'll get through that.
Do you start getting reports from them or not yet?
I'd have to go back and check, but I will go back and check and I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skinner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, councilors, we're now moved to consent items. The first item in consent items is terrorist certification. Entertain a motion to approve with the exception of L and F, which is found at page 9, because I'm told by Shelley, who received some information from Taro, that they did not, the paperwork was not received, so I'd entertain that motion.
I will make that motion.
Councilor Baker makes that motion, second by Councilor Keener. Any discussion? All those in favor of terror certification approval as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And move with cemetery restoration applications. That new list has been passed out, I believe. It has been passed out. Motion to approve, entertain a motion to approve. Councilor Byrd, Councilor Baker, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Community assistance, we have a new list, and I think there's some additions that you know about that I had, but I'll help you out if you miss it.
Okay.
And
There's a mistake in here.
there's a mistake.
Yes, on mine, the 650 is supposed to be divided 3.5 each between myself and
On
Frank.
which one?
On mine, the only one on there.
Are you on community assistance? Okay.
And
And it's supposed to be split with,
Between Frank and Pat.
okay.
Mr. Reese, do you have from Gail,
I have the 4 additional ones that you're,
War Pony, Oklahoma Game Warden Association, Welsh Little League, Gator Public Schools Foundation?
yes, sir.
Very good.
I have that list. It's not part of the report.
Right, not part of the report, so with those additions. Madam Speaker.
Yes, on that one on the Hobart Baptist Church, that's for a 5K run, the first annual 5K run at Hobart. That may be another group that they have named.
The name may change?
Yeah, the name may change, not the benefit, but the name may change.
And Madam Speaker, I had that same issue. Gail told me that when the actual application's received, she makes the adjustment for the
Okay,
check, so
okay.
it'll be good.
I just didn't know for sure what the name was yet.
Any further additions, subtractions from the list? Now we've got a motion to approve by Madam Speaker. We have a second. Second by Councilor Byrd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Law enforcement requests. We have an updated sheet in front of us. Any additions or subtractions to the law enforcement request? Motion to approve as it is. We have a second by Councilor
I'll second.
Baker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we are now on roads. Roads as it is in our book.
Yes, sir.
Anything noteworthy on roads? Okay,
No.
entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Byrd, second by Councilor Keener. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are now to the last item on our agenda pursuant to the amendment of the agenda. Councilor Fishing-Hawk, what's your pleasure on old business item number 3? Are you content with tabling that to health so that we can take it up on the
Yes.
11th? All right, you make that motion. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
And second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. It's been referred to health, March 11th. Any announcements? All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Dad, you got
Okay.
That's a long.